Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome. Whether you're on Zoom or Facebook Live, this is our third installment of Close to the Vest storytelling event, so we're very excited to have you. We hosted our first event in April 2020 in the early days of the pandemic as an opportunity for volunteers to share their stories about our new normal, volunteering during COVID-19. The need for blood donations, and being part of the Los Angeles Unified Meal Distribution Program. We then hosted our Year of the End version this past December to close out 2020 with stories from Red Crossers about all we have achieved during this difficult year. Tonight's show is in honor and recognition of National Volunteer Week. This week was established by presidential proclamation in 1974 to highlight the opportunities available for those interested in volunteering. It is also an opportunity to thank all of the millions of volunteers across the country who support organizations by supporting their services that otherwise might not exist without volunteers. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you, Red Crossers, for choosing this organization, for choosing this family to give your time, energy, and dedication. We want to thank all of our storytellers tonight and all of you tuning in, again, whether that's on Zoom or Facebook Live, thank you. Please share your thoughts about the event with hashtag #CloseToTheVest, and please follow us on social media at Red Cross LA to learn more about future events. So let's get started. Our first storyteller is Hamid Torabzadeh. Hamid is one of our incredible youth volunteers. He is the president of his Long Beach Polytech High School Club, a youth field ambassador for our national office, and the leader of our Ready Teens program. Welcome, Hamid.
Hello. I was always drawn to the Red Cross because of this organization's noble mission of preventing and alleviating human suffering in the face of emergencies. From the beginning of my service, the Red Cross was family, and the organization that my family had donated blood to for nearly 3 decades became increasingly personal to me. My name is Hamid Torabzadeh, and I'm a youth volunteer with the Red Cross Los Angeles region. I volunteered with the Red Cross since my freshman year in high school in 2018. It goes without saying, 2020 was a tough year, but one thing became clear. COVID-19 showed us the importance and unwavering spirit of the Red Cross's mission. This organization will always be there for our communities when they need it most. Along with every other program, the youth program was forced to completely change. The LA Region Youth Corps Executive Boards worked tirelessly to move from meeting in person to virtually. And from educational and awareness topics to leadership development and COVID, the Youth Corps would not let the pandemic stop us from being out in the community. I made it my goal to engage in a way where youth would become even more integral to the Red Cross's mission, objectives, and activities. So I became field ambassador for the LA region, representing our region of over more than 100 clubs and 2,000 youth volunteers at the national youth level. In this position, I spearheaded the Ready Teens program expansion project, an effort to build on the program that was initially launched by my dear colleague Matthew Martinez, now an AmeriCorps youth advisor. The Ready Teens program is designed to provide youth volunteers with the opportunity to gain extensive hands-on experience in the areas of disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. It was established to fill a hole, a divide between the Red Cross Youth Program and the larger organizational mission. Ready Teens was launched in June 2019, exclusively for the summer by the Greater Long Beach chapter, and then held in person from July to August with around 35 participants. It was then moved to a virtual format in 2020, which brought more than 100 participants from around the nation. Since November 2020, I have led the charge to bring the benefits of the program region-wide and nationwide. I work closely with youth specialists, e-boards, DPOs, and others to create comprehensive curriculum and presentations, hold a successful boot camp in March geared towards training LA Region disaster preparedness officers, to engage with the Homes Made Safer campaign, now with youth making up over 50% of all Homes Made Safer virtual presentations. And I've planned the summer 2021 virtual program, which is scheduled for July 1st to July 29th, with an expected participation audience of over 150 volunteers, youth volunteers, and other high school students, particularly from underserved and vulnerable communities in the LA region. Despite all odds during the pandemic, the youth program has grown. It has served as a powerful mechanism and voice for youth volunteers in a time where service and volunteerism could not be more important. I have seen firsthand the impact of the Ready Teens program on youth. It's a lifeline for many. It's an opportunity to make communities tangibly safer and healthier. It's a chance for someone like me to serve as a leader and educator in the community, and to do good in a time of need, to hear the voices of those who have often not felt safe or healthy in their communities, and to ultimately leave my community and others in a better place than they were just 10 years ago. As a result of Ready Teens, the LA region will serve as a model for the rest of the American Red Cross in how to leverage youth to not only serve the disaster cycle services line of service, but to become increasingly central to the organization. For me, the program expansion has improved access to critical knowledge and skills to pursue potential careers in emergency response, disaster management, law enforcement, healthcare, or let's say disaster responder with the Red Cross. The program has given me so much, from a greater passion for community service and public health to real-world skills in topics like first aid and search and rescue. Now, more youth will have the opportunity to embrace this program for months and years to come, and as a result, our region will become safer, healthier, and inclusive of more youth voices. I'd like to close by thanking all the Red Crossers working tirelessly within our youth program, from youth specialists to my fellow club presidents. I wish everyone health and safety as we hopefully near the end of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamid, for sharing your story and thoughts about Ready Teens. You have perfectly highlighted how meaningful our youth program is in LA. Your dedication to the Red Cross is inspiring, and as you prepare for college, don't forget we expect to see you back as an intern and maybe an AmeriCorps. So speaking of lifer Red Crossers, I'm excited to have our dear Bernie Nazari come on as our next storyteller. As volunteer partner to the CEO, Joanne Allen, and our Chief Strategy and External Relations Officer, Norma Vega, Bernie oversees many high-level projects and programs that impact our served communities, especially through COVID-19. He is also our innovation officer, our EOC guardian, a New York spy, and many may not know this, a newlywed. Bernie's had one busy year, and it's only April. So welcome, Bernie.
One year ago, things were already significantly different. We were all in the COVID-19 lockdown. LA region was a month into our LAUSD feeding efforts, and we were all scared to death of running out of toilet paper. As the days passed by, we started seeing that COVID-19 didn't affect us all in the same way. We already knew that age and pre-existing health conditions were a factor, but what became glaringly obvious was that geographic and racial disparities were even a bigger factor. Communities like Westlake, Pico Union, Sylmar, and Compton, to name a few, were hit much harder than other communities. We needed to do something to help, plain and simple. Now, this proved to be harder than we thought. National guidelines somewhat restricted what we were able to do in the field, based understandably on the COVID-19 safety concerns. But through some perseverance, planning, dedication, we were able to pilot the COVID-19 Rapid Response Initiative in Westlake Pico Union starting at the end of July of last year. Small team went out there to provide PPE and educate the community on the importance of wearing masks, washing hands, and keeping distance. But what they really did was they proved the need that we needed to be out in the communities, and we needed to really, really work with the most vulnerable ones. So luckily, a few months later, we were able to expand this program to include the whole region. We started partnering up with community organizations to make that happen, and honestly, without them, we literally could not have done it. Then this is where things started really changing for me. So over the course of the year, I've been on countless calls with other organizations, county employees, FEMA folks, national folks. So one day I get a call from Norma Vega, or an email from Norma Vega asking, if we had a source for about 20,000 masks. And I remembered a program that I'd heard about called the Millions of Masks for Children Initiative, up in Washington area with a woman named Jang Lei that ran it. So she and I talked, and she was like, "Yep, let me see what I can do." So fast forward a few weeks, and Christmas Eve, literally at 7:30 in the morning, the first shipment arrives, and it was 180 pallets with about 400,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. Literally, Santa Claus showed up with three semi-trailers. The logistics team, the incredible logistics team, didn't hesitate for a second. They were there. They're ready to make it work. And that specific morning, I think it was Mark, Margaret, Rick, and Jim were there, and it was crazy. We had both forklifts going. We had the hand trucks going. It was a just crazy movement. And I remember I paused for a bit in the middle of all this. I think I cried a little bit, thinking, really having the gravity of that settle. That this is real now. That's a lot of material. It's a lot of people we're helping. And then, of course, a few weeks later, we had over 1 million masks arrive, and more sanitizer, and more masks, and more goods, and we were off to the races. We first started with the first expansion of the Rapid Response Initiative program, which was 20,000 kits, and those were assembled by the incredible AmeriCorps team that were organized with Marcus and Christian, helped organize and pull all that together. Um, Rick and Jim and Scott were driving our box truck all over the county, dropping off PPE, dropping off kits, meeting up with different organizations. Margaret and Mark were frantically working in the warehouse office, making sure everything was tracked and keeping us all sane. Um, Norma probably spent every minute on the phone with different organizations, describing what we were doing, describing how we could help, seeing if we could help, and that cycle just kept going. You woke up at 7 in the morning and you saw what the deliveries for that to be organized. You got all the information out there. The guys were out there delivering everything, and we kept going and going and going for a couple months. Small group, we just relentlessly kept going, and it was fun. It was exciting, and at the end of the day, you felt like you did something really incredible. Some days I had the fortune of being able to go out into the field. So I would see folks like Andrea Ritter, who was helping organize these giant drive-through events with like partners like the Suchi there that had brought just pallets worth of food. So, you're sitting in the back of a complete stranger's pickup truck, loading it with food and toys and our wonderful Red Cross bags, and you just realize that that truck, after they leave that parking lot, is going somewhere else and giving those toys and food and everything else to someone that really, really needs it. And and 25 years into this, that I've been doing this, done the dad calls, done the shelters, had my of highs and lows like everyone, right? This was probably the most moving. This was probably the one that I saw the full scope of the work we were doing. And it's incredible, and the team that we have, and we were a small team doing this one. We didn't have the option of a large team, and it was incredible. Working with them was humbling and absolutely incredible. And the best part is we're still not done. There's still PPE that needs to get out there. There's still organizations that need help, and we're going to keep going until we're done. And I couldn't be happier or more humbled to be working with this incredible crew than that I am. So thank all of them. Thank the organization for allowing us to do this, and that's basically it.
Thank you, Bernie. We are so grateful for all the work you and Norma have done. You are truly embodying the mission and our service to underserved communities. Thank you for leading those efforts and sharing your story. Now, if we can get back to upgrading the EOC, we'll be ready for wildfire season. Right, Bernie? Knock on wood. Our next storyteller, Kenia Perez, is new to the Red Cross and came to us out of a desire to support communities and provide comfort and care. Just last month, Kenia's mom's home burned down during the Panorama City apartment fire. Amid helping her mother and the neighbors get to safety, Kenia said she could not stand on the sidelines and do nothing. She looked around and saw the Red Cross in action, and she decided this is the way she could do more. Welcome, Kenia.
Hi everyone, my name is Kenia, and today I want to share with you my short story on how my motivation to be part of the American Red Cross team began. When I was only 5 years old, I lived a catastrophe in the 2001 earthquake in Salvador. I was only 5 years old, but I still remember how many people died around me. I still remember how many people from the volunteering team was helping people in my city. Um, on March 5th of this year, I was with my mother and my daughter shopping in my city when we received a call from our neighbor telling us that there was a fire in a building next to our apartment. We immediately ran to the building to see what was happening because we saw many people outside their houses. We saw many people scared, trying to get into the buildings to see what was happening in there. And by the time I was driving to our house, my mother started to have a panic attack because her tenant was still in the house with her 2-month-old baby, and our dog was in the house. So I immediately drove to the apartment to be sure they were okay. So as soon as I got to the house, I noticed that the fire wasn't in our building; it was in the building next to our building. So I feel sad for the people that was passing through that situation at that time, but I was so blessed that my family was safe. So by the time I got to the parking lot, I immediately parked my car in a space in a safe place that all the cars were parking. In case there was any evacuation, they were just ready. So they were all the cars were parking by the gate. So I immediately ran to the house and took this woman out of the house and our dog and her baby to be sure they were okay. So I took them to my car and I just saw how the fire team was on top of their buildings, trying to get this fire down. So I was so sad seeing how many people were outside their apartment, and I saw many people crying. That time I didn't know how to start helping people. I felt like I was tied to myself because I didn't know how to help these people. And that's when my motivation started, and I started to get more information about how I can be part of the volunteer team of the American Red Cross. So thank God I talked to Aubrey, and she started to helping me in this journey to get all the training I need to become part of the volunteer team in the American Red Cross. I feel so blessed that my family is safe, and every time I pass through this building, I see the site, and I see how the fire burned these houses, and I feel so sad for these people that lost everything. So um like 3 weeks before that, I was talking with my neighbor, and he was telling me that he was part of the Red Cross team in Salvador for 9 years. And that inspired me even more because he told me about how many experiences he had during the 2001 earthquake. And he told me about how many people died in his arms, and that even inspired me even more to be part of this team. So this is my short story. Thank you for watching and have a great day.
Kenya, thank you for sharing your story and joining us as a volunteer. Many of us don't realize the impact we are making when we answer the call. We're so happy to have you on our team. Our last storyteller tonight is Kathleen Hughes. Kathleen is also new to the Red Cross, having joined us this past fall, but has already made such a huge impact. Working within our disaster and mass care programs, Kathleen was one of the few who deployed to Texas. Though this is a sensitive operation, without a lot of press and attention, we are honored that Kathleen has agreed to share her story tonight. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Hughes, and My story is about being a volunteer at the Dallas Convention Center, helping to take care of 2,300 teenage boys from Honduras and Guatemala for 2 weeks in March. I'm a relatively new volunteer with the Red Cross. I just joined last December with T4 in the Long Beach area, and I've taken a lot of training in sheltering and disaster work, and so far had volunteered to help with fires and vaccination appointments. But then I saw the email that said urgent volunteers needed to help unaccompanied minors at Texas border, and immediately signed up. I have been vaccinated twice, I speak Spanish, and I committed for 2 weeks and flew within 48 hours from LA to Dallas. It's really hard to condense the 2 weeks that followed into 5 minutes. But I'm going to try focusing on two things. One was the sheer scale of the shelter. And two was I want to just talk a little bit about how I found my own place in that scale and why it was rewarding. So on March 16th, I flew to Dallas, met 2 other volunteers in the airport, and we showed up at the Dallas Convention Center. Met the shelter manager, who said that our first task was going to be to help set up or create this giant grid. The room was the size of a football field, and our first job, and there were just 3 of us there to start, was to use tape and tape measures to create this grid of for a dormitory in the midst of a pandemic, so that there would be pods of 50 cots, each 6 feet apart, one way, 10 feet the other way, and then to create giant aisles for people to move around. So we began doing that. More volunteers arrived, opinions varied. At times we worried we weren't going to get it done, but then the cots did start arriving by forklift. More volunteers arrived, and we finally did get the room set up, which was physically daunting. This is what it looked like. I don't know how well you can see this, but it was just such a vast space. So on the second night, the boys arrived in kind of waves. The first night was 200. And at first I had signed up for feeding, which I've done before, and had taken all the training. And so the boys arrived late at night. We showed up at 6:30, ready to serve breakfast at 7, and they started coming through the line. And I was able to say, welcome to each boy, and had a little bit of interaction with them. But by the end of breakfast, I realized that what I really wanted to do was work directly with them in the dormitory. And I had a great supervisor, Chris Wood, who said, okay, we don't have a specific assignment, but just go in and see who needs help. So again, it started with just 200 boys, but I went in and sat at a table with another volunteer and just started asking people if they wanted to learn English. And what was remarkable is they all wanted to learn English, and they were all extremely eager, and they gathered around in great groups. Our ongoing challenge, and we were all wearing masks, including the boys obviously, was to keep them 6 feet apart, because they all just wanted to swarm around this table. But it was very rewarding, because it was a way to really get to know the boys. I was able to ask them, where are you from? Guatemala, Honduras. How old are you? They were 13 to 17. Where is your family in the United States? And most of them had a relative. I mean, it seemed like it was every state across the country. And they also started telling me their stories. One boy told me about how his father had been shot in the head, and he had a death certificate folded up in his pocket. There were 2 really cute 13-year-old twins who told me they hadn't seen their mother in 7 years, and they're hoping to get to Miami to find her. And a lot of them had their stories were similar. Someone in their family had paid a coyote. They'd been taken to the border of the Rio Grande. They had crossed, either swam or in a boat, and then they'd been apprehended by border control. And they also, they'd spent like 8 to 20 days in these very crowded rooms. They would say it was about 70 people. They were very cold. They got 3 meals, but they felt like they were very small and they were hungry. And so, they were very happy to be at the shelter, and the meals that the Red Cross was providing were really good. And the hardest part was really just that, the volume of kids. 200 came in, then another 200, and then 700. So until we got to, I think it was 2206, and the floor manager said the dormitory is full. But we were leading these very long lines of 50 to 150 kids to snacks, to the shelter, to the bathrooms, to the showers. And the lines would meet up and converge. And so it was just, physically a challenge. But I really did get to know the boys, and that was really rewarding. So many of them were just so sweet and smart. And when it was time to leave, I really wanted to say goodbye to the 150 who were in the 3 pods that I was working with mostly. And that was just a very emotional experience. They wrote really sweet letters thanking me, and many of the volunteers got these letters. But just this is one, just saying you will always be in my heart. And this kid was really sweet. Or, we love you. You're a very important person to us. So my time is up, but it was really a very rewarding experience. And thank you for inviting me to participate in this.
Thank you, Kathleen, for volunteering with us and for agreeing to go to Texas. There are many different deployments and operations we are a part of, and each one presents a different set of rewards and challenges. This is one that touches so many of us, and we thank you for representing the Los Angeles region. Well, Red Crossers, those are our stories for the 3rd installment of Close to the Vest. I want to thank Hamid, Bernie, Kenia, and Kathleen for sharing their stories and experiences with us. I ask all of you to join me in giving them a Zoom applause, some virtual applause, and some love in the chat room. They did an amazing job. I know it's not easy to come on this virtual stage and have everyone watching you detail a private moment in your life, something that's so important to you. As I mentioned earlier, we have achieved so much this year, and it's only April. The year of COVID-19 is almost behind us, but then there's so much we know that lays ahead of us. Thank you to all the Red Crossers for all you've done to keep the mission alive and our work substantial.
Hi there, I am Joanne Nowlin. I'm the CEO for the Los Angeles region of the American Red Cross. And I want to congratulate Bernie Nazari, my volunteer partner, on being the recipient of the Spirit of Pacific Award. This award honors a volunteer or paid staff member in the Pacific Division of the American Red Cross who acts with a sense of purpose, has a passion for service, and a willingness to go above and beyond. Let me tell you a little bit about Bernie. He has been a highly engaged Red Cross volunteer at the region, division, and national level for more than 25 years. He currently supports every line of service, is an active member of the senior leadership team, serves as a volunteer partner, connects our development team to major partnership, and supports our life-saving COVID-19 response. Simply put, Bernie does it all. His commitment, perseverance, and creativity advances our mission and elevates our work. We are a better organization because of his support. Bernie, thank you.
I'd like to thank the Academy and the Hollywood Foreign Press for this incredible... Alright, kidding aside, incredibly humbled. You can't do this by yourself. This is an incredible team. And what we did with the COVID-19 Rapid Response Initiative, with what Norma started, with what the logistics team and AmeriCorps and everyone else and our partners, our incredible partners in the EDs, yeah, it's an amazing, amazing project. It was something that we did when there was definitely a need, and I was incredibly honored to be part of it. And thank you for this. Although, it's everyone else that is part of this as well. Thanks.
Before we go, I want to give one more huge thank you and a big virtual hug of gratitude to all of our Red Cross volunteers. Happy National Volunteer Week, and we'll see you in the fall for Close to the Vest Edition 4. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you. John